Okay.
No, it's all good.
All right, man. We are rolling. So, Ishmael, thanks so much for doing this, man. It's so good to be talking to you again. And how have you been doing the last couple weeks since I talked to you last?
Life's been really busy, but honestly, like praise God, things have been pretty good. And I basically just work at my own office job, then I do my own YouTube stuff, and then social media, and then I just work a lot, basically.
Yeah,
Just
always on the
that's
grind.
most of my life. Yeah, at this point, yeah, there's always something happening. So yeah.
Dang, man. I know you. So you've been doing YouTube for how long now?
I had a YouTube channel that got like 20, 30 views like a couple of years ago. And then after like in April when like the Matt Fradd thing happened and everything went viral, it went up from like a couple hundred followers to now I'm almost like at 7.5 thousand. So it
Dang,
went
man.
up significantly. And it keeps going up even though I don't post as often as I should. I try to work for quality over quantity, but I'm very happy with the audience I have there, and it just keeps growing. Like every day as if there's more people.
It
And
seems like you have a
I don't,
very
yeah.
engaged audience too.
Yeah, the people who are on there, like, it was actually funny. I was on a podcast, it was a more like spiritual, not like a religious podcast, and I decided to join it just so I was able to preach the gospel on it, and it went very well. But she basically messaged me, is like, your fans are too like they love you too much that anything that's said bad about you in the comments, they start rushing on my YouTube channel. And I was like,
they're,
oh, I'm so sorry, man.
they're like standing you in the comments.
Yeah, like no one could say anything bad about it. I was like, bro, okay, I had to apologize to the woman, but I was like, I didn't know they were gonna do that.
Dang, man. I guess what's
Yeah.
everybody. That's what everybody aspires to, eventually. Um,
Praise
yeah, and
God, man.
and you deserve it. I mean, you really you went out on a limb, doing what you're doing, and from what it sounds like, you've had um, some rough parts in the road
hmm
doing this, and you put out a video out. You said people were threatening your family because of your ministry.
Yeah, that happened last year before. Like I had like a very small ministry, and I was doing it like where I live. I live in like in Canada, and like in the city where I live, I still do a small ministry that's like it's more secretive now because I'm becoming like this known figure in like churches and mosques and stuff. But at the time, I wasn't as well known at all. But people started finding out like, wait a minute, the city where I live is not big. So like the guy whose dad goes to the mosque is telling our kids to become Christians. Like this is like someone basically told my dad like, "Hey, you gotta tell your son to stop, or like something bad's gonna happen." And I don't know. I had two options. I could either stop like having secret Bible studies in Arabic for Muslims, or I could just go out and be like, you know what? If you threaten me, it's gonna prove you wrong. And maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe that's what it is. But I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go for it. And I just made the video and released it, and then haven't gotten any threats since then because I think I've just been too public that it's kind of like if I get hurt by anyone, then it proves that their religion's not from God because that means like your God's kind of weak, he can't really defend himself. But also, if they keep me, if I'm allowed to preach, then I'm gonna prove the religion wrong anyways. So they're kind of damned either way. That's how I see it. So if I die, I don't want to die, but if I die, I die, and if I live, I just keep preaching Christ.
Yeah, dude, it's like you have protection from your notoriety because it's like if something happens to you, everybody will know about it. So we need to
Oh, it would be on the
boost.
news, I
Yeah,
guarantee you.
right.
Yeah.
We need to boost Ishmael's following. It's absolutely critical. We have to protect him. He needs 100K subs now.
Okay.
These are our
That's right now,
demands.
yeah.
Yeah, right
Overnight.
now. Yeah, man. Yeah, so we're going to talk about kind of whether or not Muslims worship the Catholic God. And so, just for the viewers that maybe haven't, seen your stuff before or watched the interview on Pints with Aquinas, they should go watch it. But just kind of your backstory. You were raised Muslim. You were raised in a Muslim household and moved from Canada to Egypt at a young age, right? And then,
Yeah.
so you had a very, very in-depth experience with being endowed with culture and in a Muslim country and speaking Arabic. And do you just want to give a little bit about your history and what your story is?
Yeah, so like my mom's from Canada and my dad's from Egypt, and basically my dad took my brother and I back to Egypt when we were kids so that we can learn Arabic and learn the Quran and be able to speak it fluently. And like he did a great job. Like I'm fluent in Arabic now, and that's because of his efforts to take me there. But I always kind of lived in like two worlds because of that. Like I always saw like Canada as kind of like where I'm from, and Egypt was where I went to school almost and learned a bunch of stuff because my identity was split between like Western values and Islamic values, where Islamic values were like telling me that they're from God and that they're better than Western values. But every time I'd go to a Western country, it's like these people are doing a lot better than us. I feel like their values are a little bit better. You know what I mean?
It
Like
didn't add
you're
up.
saying your
Yeah.
values are better, but like when you look outside the box, you're just like, wait a minute, like it doesn't seem like you guys are doing better. So I always lived in like these two worlds almost, that kept colliding. And long story short, when I living in these two worlds, I came to the conclusion that they're not compatible. Like the Western society and Islamic society is just not compatible. And it's dangerous, really, the way that I don't know why I'm going to rant about this, but immigration from the Muslim world into like Europe, Canada, and even the United States and other like Australia is gonna backfire significantly, especially if people don't integrate into these societies, because one cult they're opposite cultures from the very like essence of what they are. Like even from the way we interact, women and men interacting, women are in a different category in Islamic culture. Um, but what we drink, like alcohol is not a taboo thing, but in Islamic culture it is. Like the smallest things to the largest things are in sheer contrast with each other. And that's something I noticed from a young age is that these two cultures are almost impossible to coexist.
So, what are your thoughts on then? With there being so much immigration in the United States, and arguably the Christian value system being the original core of the Western society, and now that's kind of being diluted with
Mm.
not just immigration, but with people, becoming atheistic or agnostic, or converting to these other religions. Did you think it was better when you lived in Egypt, at least being in a society that was homogenous in its value system? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do you think that the West would benefit from having more rigidity in our value system and preserving our our faith within our society, or what with having
Hmm.
experience in Egypt with a homogeneously religious society, what would be your takeaway from that?
There's a good quote that says, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. And that's kind of what my philosophy is for the Western world, where we had these values where churches, whether they be Catholic or Protestant, were the center of like the city. People would go to church, and it wasn't just for like service or mass. That was where people would go to learn about the Bible, to go to like play basketball for their kids. Like everyone was going there, and that was the center of the city. That was the center of the culture. Now we don't have that anymore. It's been replaced and replaced with almost nothing. Like there's nothing there to replace it. Now it's like you go to work, you go home, you talk about spirituality, you're kind of frowned upon in most places now. And religion's kind of hush hush. We don't talk about it. And that's an issue because religion and philosophy and all these things are the backbone to our culture. They're the backbone to Western society and Islamic society. And that's why they're winning, really. That's why the Islamic society is winning because they still have that backbone. They still have that homogenous where everyone agrees on at least some type of standard of societal norms, and everyone's like, okay, this is what we're going to believe. This is how the country's going to function. This is who God is. This is how the churches function. We used to have that. Now we don't have that. And when everyone believes anything, it's like believing in nothing at the same time. And that's how a country collapses, really.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's what's going to happen.
so that's what my next question was going to be. Is there's this kind of emerging movement, it seems like, where people are starting to wake up to that, and people that used to hate on God, the atheists, the Richard Dawkins type people, are now coming out and saying, well, I don't believe in the existence of a God, but I believe that it is better to live in a society where people do. So I want all the benefits, to reap the benefits of a society that subscribes to this value system, but I don't want to believe in the supernatural existence of God, and I don't need to reap the benefits of that value system. But I feel like to a certain degree, society does have to, like, people, once you stop believing in the existence of God, once you stop believing in his supernatural power, you stop believing in the deity, then the value system doesn't survive. And so I do feel like they're inextricable to, like, say, we don't just need people that, have a common written set of values. We need people that believe in a common God. You know what I mean? Or am I making any sense with that?
You're making a lot of sense. And I think what's happening with these atheist movements, realizing that they have to be like quote unquote culturally Christian at least, is they're realizing it's backfiring significantly. And they're just
Yeah,
like,
right.
oh
Yeah.
shoot, atheism's not actually working, but I don't want to admit that atheism's not working. So I'm just gonna be like, well, cultural Christianity is okay because the concept of a God, but then like they're well, which I'm like, there's some humility there where they're realizing that they're at least somewhat wrong. But it's time for him to go the whole way. We're like, okay, without it's not just the concept. There's an actual like divine being who created this universe, and that person came down to Earth, and that those are where these philosophies and these values come from. They're not just concepts that came out of nowhere, and that's why the Western world was so great because it was based off these Christian values.
Yeah, I noticed it is kind of when I looked into I've been studying the history of religion a lot lately, and when I was looking into the history of atheism, um, it seems like the people that kind of promulgated the rise of atheism. I'm not sure if they were even atheists, but they were rulers that understood that when you remove a god from society, the government becomes the god. And so it was
Hmm.
convenient for them, in order to more effectively rule the people, to not have them questioning or comparing their rule against another source of authority. And so they say, oh, well, we're just going to require everyone to believe there is no God, and it'll be
Hmm.
easier for them to kind of just conform to whatever we tell them that is going to be the value system. And so I don't think atheism, I don't think it was ever a legitimate worldview or a legitimate creation account. It was formulated out of, I think, really convenience for the government.
Yeah,
And
I agree. Yeah.
but
It's kind of this is a little bit off topic, but it's kind of interesting too to think of it that like it's good to think that people are saying it's Western society dying or is it already dead? And I try to think of it as like it's already dead and we can revive it through Christ.
mm-hmm.
So the reason why I think this, it's like even if you think of like US politics, like the election Kamala versus Trump. Like whatever you voted for, Kamala like is everything that's against your faith, basically. Like like anything you believe about your faith, like if you want to go the opposite way, vote her.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
Trump also supports like IVF. And then like you know what I mean? It's like all these different things. And you're just like, okay. I can just pick the lesser of two evil. There's no Christian choice. There really isn't like the guy who is going to be like, I'm going to end abortion. I'm going to end IVF. I'm going to make sure that God is in every like school in this country. And the Republican Party is better in that way. But to say that they're like completely Christian, there's still areas where we've sacrificed some of our Christian values for the greater good of the quote unquote like universal
Society.
like society exactly so that everyone else feels included and I don't think we should be sacrificing our values. I don't like especially when it comes to human life because those values come from Christ, they come from Christianity, and even sacrificing a little bit of it is enough for our countries to go downhill significantly. And I feel like no one's really addressing that. They just keep picking the lesser of like two evils regardless of what country it's in the West. And but reality is there's no good Christian politicians out there that I can really think of who are 100% in favor for a Christian nation. And we used to have Christian nations, but I don't know if we're really quote unquote Christian anymore.
No, no, the Catholics got one good president, and then he got assassinated. We didn't even get a full
Yeah.
term.
Yeah,
We got one.
I forgot about him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. No, I totally agree. They give you this, they kind of read you the riot act about voting, and they make it out like, well, because you get a choice, then you're responsible for the outcome. You just have to sit back and accept it quietly. But then they control what the choices are. So it's like, well, they make it's what they call controlled opposition. So they make it out like there's these two sides. But when you look at where the money flows from, and you look at where the funding comes from for these campaigns, it's all coming from the same people. So, with minor differences. So in reality, they're really good at co-opting audiences. They're really good at placating to people. That's what politicians do. And so they're really good at making you think that they care about the things that you care about until they don't. And
it's the same here in Canada too, where it's like, I didn't vote in the last election in Canada because both parties, regardless of what they believed in, were like 100% pro-abortion. I'm like, okay, so like,
yeah, like what?
oh, lesser taxes, awesome, but you're still gonna kill kids. Like it's not gonna, we're not gonna that's not being solved. But okay.
Dude, I don't think people take abortion seriously enough. Like even in the Catholic Church, like people say, well, yeah, I don't believe in it, but it's like, it keeps me up at night sometimes. And I believe in real spiritual warfare. And so like the type of, I don't want to say the wrath of God or the, type of demonic power that we bring upon our nation because of our actions and the way that we sacrifice our children for our own selfish desire is, I shudder to think about what that would look like. You know what I mean?
Imagine,
I don't think.
Imagine like living in a country where people come to your house and take your newborn child and shoot it. That's basically the same thing. Like that's wild. And we're like, oh, we're not gonna be punished for this. Like we're lucky we haven't been like destroyed yet.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like God has been very merciful that we have not been destroyed.
It's unbelievable, man. And
yeah.
I don't know how people justify it. Did you hear about what happened with there was well, you're Canadian, so maybe you're not as up to it, but there was there's the thing that was supposed to happen where the funding on Planned Parenthood, which is the government subsidized abortion clinic in America, was supposed to get rolled back. And I actually went to a rally for that, and they said that the funding got rolled back, and then they came out and said that some federal judge placed an injunction or something on it, and now that that it's illegal for them to defund Planned Parenthood, which I don't understand how one federal judge can tell Congress. Defund? Yeah, that's what.
Wild. Okay.
Yeah, no, I can't even anymore. Like, I don't understand how one federal judge can tell Congress, like, you're not allowed to do that. Like,
that's wild.
But yeah, man. So, anyways,
no, it's the evil world.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And so Catholicism and Islam, I guess. Let me get into. I guess I'll just ask you to get started. How conducive do you think they are? Because I notice in the debate we were talking about just before we started the stream here, Jay Dyer versus Timothy Gordon, and they're talking about this. And as much as I like Timothy Gordon, I feel like there's a point where they're talking over each other, because Timothy Gordon's talking about something called the sense-reference dichotomy, and the sense-reference dichotomy is essentially, to put it plainly, if you and I are standing in the street, we're both looking at the same girl, but you think she has red hair and I think she has yellow hair, then we could be talking about the same person, but we're getting a different sense of the person we're referencing. We're referencing the same person, but we get a different sense. And then Jay Dyer talks about the quantifier shift fallacy, which is, if you have a blonde mother and I have a blonde mother, we have the same mother. So because something shares qualities means it's unanimous. Like, whereas you would say, if you and I were both looking at a person in the street and I said, well, she's 7 feet tall, and you said, well, she's 4 feet tall, it's almost for sure that we're talking about a different person.
Yeah, there's no way it's the same individual.
Yeah, so that there's this kind of idea that is being perpetuated by a lot of Catholic theologians and even clergy that Islam and Catholicism, we worship the same God. We just have a different idea of what characteristics they have. But I have an issue with in my head, I'm going, well, if one guy has a son and another guy doesn't have a son, you know what I mean? Like, how could they be the same
Hmm.
person? So there seem to be certain attributes of God that if we're identifying these attributes differently, then that verifies as a non sequitur that we're talking about a different God. If that, am I making any sense? I'm going really deep
You're
in the
making
weeds here,
sense. No,
but
you're correct. Yeah.
you understand the what attributes Islam attributes to God more than anybody else. So, with your understanding, would you say that? I guess, what is your view on the whole thing? Do you think that it's possible that we're referring to the same God, as far as the institutions of the religions refer to it?
So this is how I'll word it. Let's say you're talking to a Muslim, right? And you're talking about God and talking about the person of Jesus and if he's God or not. In that instinct, you might be referring to the same being because you're trying to find common ground. And there's also the instinct where a Muslim who never encounters Christianity, like let's say he lives on an island in Indonesia and he never meets Christians, all he knows is Islam, he could, through his ignorance, indirectly be worshiping the true God if through his conscience and what he knows. That's very different from saying, the God of Islam or the God of all Muslims is the same as the God of Christians. The issue really is, where is the line? What I mean by this is like, if we're going to say that Muslims worship the same God because they believe in one creator, are we also going to say that Hindus worship the same God? Because they believe there's one creator and he comes down in different forms and different quote unquote gods. So is that also the same God? What about a Buddhist who believes there's one God? What about a Satanist? A Satanist who believes there's one God, but he worships Satan. He might not be worshiping the true God, but he's acknowledging the true God. Like, where's the line here in the distinction between we are talking about the same being and we're not talking about the same being anymore? And I think we have to look at the fundamentals of what the Christian God is. So, one example is throughout the Old and New Testament, God is referred to as Father. So, in the Torah, he's called a father to Israel. Throughout the whole Old Testament, he's a father. Um, Even talks about the Son in Proverbs and in the Psalms. And then in the New Testament, he's still called Father. And then there's also the Son, Jesus. And there's the Holy Spirit, which is also in the Old Testament. So the God of the Old and the New Testament are the same gods, right? Now we go to Islam. Islam makes it very clear in the Quran that God cannot be referred to a father. He also cannot have a son. It actually says that the world shakes by people mentioning he has a son because of how blasphemous it is. And God doesn't have a spirit. Even though the spirit of God is mentioned in the Quran, he's not the same being as Allah. So right there we see that God is not a father. He doesn't have a son, and he's not creating the world from the beginning of time through the spirit. So from the very beginning, these characteristics are starting to fall apart. The second thing is God is referred to as love in the New Testament. He also is referred to as love many times in the Old Testament too. So again, the Old and New Testament, they check out. God has 99 names in Islam. Not one of them is love, and not one of them is Yahweh. But Yahweh is used throughout the entire Bible, and love is used throughout the entire Bible. And that's very important because Yahweh in Hebrew means the great I am. And if Allah is not using these terms, and I'm using Allah just to refer to the Muslim God, because the word Allah just means God in Arabic.
Yeah.
If Allah is not referring to himself as Yahweh, the great I am, then what is he then? Is he something else? And this is the tricky part. The tricky part is the differences are so extreme that can we really say this is the same being? And the one that really like is the nail in the coffin for me is in the Bible, Satan is referred to as the great deceiver. In the Quran, God is referred to as the great deceiver. So now we're not only missing parts of God, we have a characteristic of God that is actually against God's nature in our beliefs. So it's not only now that they're missing some parts, there's characteristics of their God that is in contrast to characteristics of our God. Like he is a great deceiver, and our God can never deceive because he's fully love. So what does that leave us? When we're talking about God from like let's say like a bird's eye perspective, we can look at these two religions. They cannot be referring to the same being because the differences are so large. However, we can say that individual Muslims through their ignorance might be able to worship the true God because they're ignorant of the gospel. But to have a flat out statement saying Christians and Muslims worship the same God doesn't seem, first of all, the statement is just very worded incorrectly, and it's just unwise. It's just an unwise statement because it seems to be a lack of knowledge of what Islam believes about God and what actually is going on in the Islamic world. I don't know if that answers your question. That's a
No,
whole
yeah,
lot
no.
of information.
That's really good. And I do think there is a point there. Like, if the statement that they're making is that some Muslims may worship the Christian God, excuse me, I feel like that could be a valid statement. When you're saying Muslims adore the one true God as a
Hmm.
broad statement, it's almost unanimous with, or I would say synonymous with saying the institution of Islam refers to the one true God. That seems to me to be the sentiment. Or am I
It sounds
perceiving that
like it, at
incorrectly? Yeah.
least. Yeah, it sounds a lot closer to saying Islam and Christianity have the same God than individual Muslims through ignorance worship the same God. Like that statement seems more like you're saying Islam has the same God as us,
Yeah.
which I can't believe.
Um well, and that was an issue with, so this all kind of gets lumped together with the Abrahamic faiths, because
Hmm.
they say, Muslims, Christians, Jews, they're all part of the Abrahamic faith, and therefore we all worship the same God. Um, which I don't completely understand the premise that, oh, well, because we all come from the same lineage, or because the religions were developed by people that came from the same lineage, then they're all equally valid to some degree. I don't really understand that sentiment. But when you talk about Judaism, it gets even weirder because, you know, Pope Francis came out and in multiple documents in, the gifts and callings of God are irrevocable. There was a document released called the Gifts and Callings of God are irrevocable. There was Evangelizing. He came out multiple times and said that the Catholic Church will not pursue any institutional ministry directed towards Jews. So
Okay.
basically, we went from saying like, originally it was like, well, maybe we worship the same God. Maybe we're talking about the same person. And some people are like, hold up, wait a minute. Like, that doesn't sound completely right. And they're like, oh, I'll just roll with it. And then decades down the line, they're going, well, actually, these people don't even need to convert.
Mm.
Their religion is not just, are they worshiping the true God ignorantly, but their religion is salvific. So they'll go to heaven even if they don't convert, And
Which I have, like, especially with Judaism, if you just read the New Testament, like if the half of the New Testament's about why you should give up, like not give up the law, but that the fullness of the law is in Christ, and that there's no longer Jew or Greek, that we're all one in Christ, and that like Judaizers were like literally argued against throughout the whole New Testament. Like in Galatians, Paul gets up and rebukes Peter because he follows in the footsteps of the Judaizers, trying to bring back the law into the gospel. So I don't know, like a simple reading of the New Testament seems to suggest that we should be evangelizing the
yeah,
Jews. If
right.
anything, the first people they evangelized to were the Jewish people. Like that was like the first. Jesus said, "Go to the Jews first, then the Gentiles." Like,
Well, yeah, and then we can watch the clip. I have it pulled up here, but I'm sure you've seen the clip with Ben Shapiro and Bishop Barron.
mhm.
Yeah, so I did a video reacting to this, and Bishop Barron says Christ is the privileged root, and that's something I've never heard anybody present it that way, and I'll be honest, just like viscerally reacted to that, the privileged root, because he didn't say I am the privileged way and the privileged truth
Mhm.
and the privileged life. He said I am the way, the truth, and the life. And so everything about the New Testament seems to flesh out to me that Jesus is the only way to heaven. And I understand the concept of invincible ignorance, but I guess like when I originally conceived of it, because I was originally Protestant, but even the Protestants have an idea of invincible ignorance. And, I always thought that it was a doctrine that applied mostly to people of, let's say, indigenous tribes, or like you said, people that grew up in a completely homogenous nation that had
they have no choice,
access
there's no
to
way
Christianity.
of hearing it.
Yeah, and that to me seemed to be a small minority of people. That seemed to be an extraordinary means, not an ordinary means, as we always say in the Catholic Church. And now they're making it out kind of as if evangelism isn't even necessary, as if well, Christ is the privileged route, but it's basically like, do you want toppings on your sundae or not? It'll probably be a little bit better if you have the toppings, but it's still a sundae. That's kind of how they're starting to treat it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is the, like, it seems like we're removing all the substance of what our faith is, because what is the purpose of us being alive? If that were the case, then as soon as anybody got saved, they would just go to heaven. Why would we continue to exist past the moment of salvation? Because God has plans for us on this earth to do things that will cause other people's souls to be saved, not just ours, and at least that's how I view it. And so to remove that seems kind of egregious to me.
I agree. I remember a week after I had my conversion, so I literally I feel the Holy Spirit. I'm like, Christianity is true, I want to get baptized, Catholic Church, awesome. The first time I go to like mass by myself, I was like, okay, I have to start going to mass, and I couldn't receive because I wasn't baptized yet. And I'm sitting there, I'm listening to a homily, and the homily was about why Christians, Muslims, and Jews worship the same God, and we don't have to evangelize to them. That was a week after my conversion, and I felt like, for lack of better phrasing, I felt like crap. I was like, why did I just do everything I did? And you're telling me I could have just remained a Muslim and I would have been like, for lack of better phrasing, Gucci, just like live my life and then we're all good. And
We're just
you mean
solid.
like if no one told me about Jesus, I could have lived a Muslim life and go to heaven. Like, why are you telling me about him? It's like what? Like it just seemed very like a slap in the face. And I was like, there's no way this is right because I know who Jesus is now. I'm lucky that like that didn't shake my faith. It really made me angry almost. I was like, how can you say such a thing? Like you have no idea what you're talking. This is a Catholic priest who went to seminary and he's like, I don't know, he was like probably 50 years old and he's giving his homily about ecumenism for all religions. And I'm like, if we can say whatever we want, but we're not an ecumenical religion. We don't believe we're all the same. That's the whole purpose of our religion, is that there's one way to heaven. That's the whole deal here.
It like invalidates confession, so Muslims believe in polygamy, right? To a certain degree. So they're going to have multiple wives. So a guy could be sleeping with 3 women at the same time. And meanwhile, the Christian guy over here, if he cheats on his wife, it's like, well, you have to go to confession and tell a priest that you did that. Otherwise, you're going to go to hell. You're like, what about this guy over here? You know what I mean?
Or you could be Muslim.
Like, yeah, why am I doing this? It doesn't make like. Yeah, I choose the right path. Seems real privileged, like.
If anything, it seems like it's harder to be.
I'm sure that I'm sure all of the 11 disciples that got crucified and boiled in oil and all of the like were thinking, man, this is really the privilege. This is the privileged route. You know what I mean? Like,
literally.
Like, bro.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, yeah, I feel bad because.
That's wild.
So yeah, I'll play the clip here real quick. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I think you've seen it.
I've seen it, yeah.
So yeah.
So let's start with the most awkward of the awkward questions.
Yeah.
I don't really care about this question particularly much, but I get this question a lot, which is, as a Jew, how does it feel that there are other religions that don't think you're getting into heaven? So let me ask you, what's the Catholic view on who gets into heaven and who doesn't? I feel like I lead a pretty good life, a very religiously based life in which I try to keep not just the 10 commandments, but a solid 603 other commandments as well. And I spend an awful lot of my time promulgating what I would consider to be Judeo-Christian virtues, particularly in Western societies. So what's the Catholic view of me? Am I basically screwed here?
No. The Catholic view, go back to the Second Vatican Council, says it very clearly. I mean, Christ is the privileged route to salvation. I mean, God so loved the world, he gave his only son that we might find eternal life. So that's the privileged route. However, Vatican II clearly teaches that someone outside the explicit Christian faith can be saved. Now, they're saved through the grace of Christ, indirectly received. So, I mean, the grace is coming from Christ, but it might be received according to your conscience. So if you're following your conscience sincerely, or in your case, you're following the commandments of the law sincerely, yeah, you can be saved. Now, that doesn't conduce to a complete relativism. We still would say the privileged route and the route that God has offered to humanity is the route of his son. But no, you can be saved. Even Vatican II says an atheist of goodwill can be saved, because in following his conscience, if he does, John Henry Newman said the conscience is the aboriginal vicar of Christ in the soul.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. He talks about the conscience, and he talks a lot about how how Vatican II says that your conscience can lead you to heaven. But it also says in Vatican II, and I did a short on this that got a lot of flack. It says in Vatican II that it is a correct conscience. And then you go back and look at the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and what does it say a correct conscience is identified as? Well, a correct conscience is one that's formed through your relationship with the Holy Spirit, contemplating your sins at the foot of the cross. It uses all this verbiage that is directly exclusionary to a Christian life and a relationship with Jesus. That's how you have a well-formed conscience. That's how you have a correct conscience. Because if we don't believe that there's some specific path to truth, that there is I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's kind of a relativistic mindset that, well, any religion can get you a good conscience. It doesn't really matter. And you're like, well, but everybody lives different. So this guy's a polygamist, and this guy is, believes in monogamy, and this guy is okay with, jihad, and this guy is a pacifist, or they're different people.
Yeah. Everyone has different moralities.
Yeah. So then is it all right? Is it just all subjective to the mind of the viewer? What is the...
Yeah. I think the issue too is that Ben Shapiro, when hearing that, did not get what you said. He didn't get that a clear conscience and a formed conscience is one that submits to Christ and has all these graces from God. He didn't get that. He just heard, "Oh no, you're not damned because if you had a correct conscience according to Vatican II, you can get to heaven." That's what he heard. So what he's going to take away from that is, I can just be Jewish, live my Jewish life, be a quote-unquote good person, even though the Bible says there's no one who's good, and then get to heaven.
Yeah, and
that's the issue here.
That's what Bishop Barron said. He said, "Do I have to accept Jesus?" No. That's how much more forward can you give it?
If you could say, this is how you should have said, Ben, because you know Christianity and you're well informed, you should accept him because he's your Messiah and he died for you. That's it. The answer is always yes for everyone. Should you accept Jesus, no matter who you are? 100%.
Well, and that's why I think, like we were talking about earlier, and I guess this is where I would draw the distinction. I think when we're comparing Islam and Christianity, we should compare the ideal Muslim to the ideal Christian, someone that follows the book to a T, the way that it's supposed to be followed, not people that maybe don't understand aren't following it properly, because there are people that are Christian that don't really understand the Bible. There are people that are Muslim that don't really understand the Quran. You know what I'm saying? So so we should compare the ideals, the prototypes, and so I guess what I'm trying to say is when we were talking about invincible ignorance, I don't know how a religion that addresses Christianity in its foundational texts and says that it's false, how could you be categorically eligible for invincible ignorance when in your very own holy book you said, I know about Christianity and I reject it? You know what I mean? Like,
Half the
doesn't
book's
that seem
about
to
us.
be?
Like,
Yeah, it's like,
like literally, half of the Quran's why like, oh, Jesus is not the Son of God. Like that's so
yeah,
like the whole point of of Islam is to say that Christianity is false.
yeah. So I mean, yeah. How do they do that? Like, how do they make that argument that well, they could be invincibly ignorant and well, we believe in the same God, but we just and they don't here's what I hear over and over again that honestly pisses me off. They say, well, Muslims don't reject Jesus, they just don't venerate him like we do. I'm sorry, saying that you are God incarnate is a little bit more than veneration, buddy. Like, like,
Yeah.
so saying that if we say he's the Son of God, he's God incarnate, and they say he's just a dude, like, yeah, that is kind of rejecting him as the Son of God,
It's a big deal. It's actually the height of disrespect. It
Yeah,
would
like,
almost be better if they didn't even believe in him.
yeah.
It would be better if you just didn't even talk about him. Like,
Well, then they could say they're invincibly ignorant, but it's kind of hard to
exactly.
do when they say, yeah, oh, yeah, we know about that guy, but nah.
And then he's not God and he's not divine, not the Son. Like it literally it makes it worse for their case, if anything. Like, so yeah, I don't know how the people justify that. And I guess we have to understand that Islam is a response to Christianity. So to say that Islam has no knowledge of what we have or what we believe, and that it can be ignorant of what we believe is just false. It grew up around Christian heresies. It was originally a Christian heresy and it spread to become its own religion. And its whole purpose is to say that the Trinity is false, the incarnation is false, everything that Christians stand for is false. That is the purpose of Islam. So to say that they worship the same God and to say that they're ignorant of what we believe is just a little bit, you have to be somewhat uneducated about these religions. You just have to open the Quran to realize that this is not true.
Well, yeah, and that's so I guess on 2 points. For one, that's one of the reasons that you're such a valuable figure because you're kind of I know you mentioned this on Matt Frad. You said that people Muslims a lot of times when they're debating with Christians will try to pull well, you don't read Arabic, you don't know the Quran in its original language and this and that. And you said that they'll try to debate you and then as soon as they realize you speak Arabic, then they'd like end the chat or something. And
The phone calls end right there.
Yeah. It's like,
I can't even tell you how many times that's happened.
That's insane, dude. Maybe you should do
I'll
some
literally
type
just
of,
like start speaking to them in Arabic and then it's done. Like it's just
it's over then. Yeah.
yeah.
So they just
I want to start doing lives and stuff, but a lot of times like they've stopped contacting me because I think people it's interesting. They only message or make fun of or make reels responding to ex-Muslims who don't speak Arabic. They haven't done it a lot with me. And I think it's because they know that I can just refute it very easily. And I think that's why no one's asking for like an upfront debate. Because all I have to do, I don't even have to debate them. I have to open the Quran, read it in Arabic, and then read the translation in English for the audience. And that's the end. Like
yeah.
that's all that has to happen. So that's why I haven't really got like a request like to debate this person or this person. It's like I think they know that I'm not trying to boost myself. I think they know I know too much. I think that's what it is. I think yeah, he knows
You're
too
an
much.
insider. You're a defector. You're
Yeah, exactly.
you're the double agent.
He was one of us, and now he's like, bro.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. If you want, hey, dude. If anybody agrees to it, I'll moderate for you. If that does
That'd be
anything,
awesome, yeah.
that would be pretty sweet. I would love to see it too. And then also, yeah. So another point that you mentioned, you said Islam was originally a Christian heresy. So I noticed that when I watched your interview with Matt Frad, that he refers to it as the Christian heresy of Islam, and he kind of lumped it in the same category as. Well, actually, he made the express statement that we have more in common with Muslims than Mormons. Which may or may not be true because I don't really have an affinity for Mormons, but
I agree with him on that, Mark. But I just feel like Islam is closer to us theologically, where Mormons are closer to us morally. We have more in common theologically with Muslims. We do. That's true. But the morality of Mormonism is actually quite good because it's based off of Christian morality.
well, but I guess what I'm asking is, so the term Christian heresy kind of implies that, like, when I heard that, it made it sound like he lumped it in with like Arianism or Nestorianism and all this stuff.
Mhm.
And that kind of gives it the impression that it was a Christian base, like it was originally Christianity, and then they just, kind of twisted and perverted some things to where they became heretical. Whereas what you're saying is essentially it's not even a heresy, it's just a book that says Christianity is wrong. That, you know what I mean? So what I guess, what was the path of it? Like, how did it start as a Christian heresy, and then how did it kind of formulate into its own thing?
So we have to understand the context of where Muhammad lived. So in the 6th century Arabia, the Trinitarian formula of Nicaea was already like established. So the Byzantine Empire was purely like Catholic or Orthodox Catholic, because there was no split yet. And Arabia is where all the heretics would go. So Nestorians, Arians, those type of people, in order to preach. And the first person to tell Muhammad that he was a prophet was an Arian monk. Actually, we're not sure if he was Arian or Nestorian, but he was a heretical monk who didn't
we know
believe that
it's one or
Christ.
the other.
We know it was either a Nestorian or Arian, but because he didn't believe that Christ was like the same, like divinity of the Father, so he believed that he was a lesser divinity. So that's where it starts, where Christ is a lesser divinity, and this monk tells Muhammad all these different things, and eventually the monk dies, and Muhammad starts adding his own things to it. But what Islam basically is, it's not like it's an offshoot of Christianity. There's Christianity, then there's these offshoots of heresies, and then Islam is an offshoot of those heresies with paganism and Judaism mixed together. So its connection to Christianity is actually like we have Christianity, then we have like the heresy, and then we have Islam that comes off of the heresy that's mixed with other things. So that's its connection to Christianity. So which is very interesting to think about and how it basically forms. And that's how the Quran basically goes from, oh, Jesus has all these divine powers. Like he creates stuff out of clay, he walks on water, does all these amazing things. He's even God's word. But it's the heresy is so strong at this point that it's a different religion. And Jesus is not just a minor God or not equal to the Father. He's not God at all anymore. So that's become the main difference.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, and it very quickly became militarized, right?
Yeah, the first few years it wasn't militarized at all, and Muhammad had like 300 followers, and then eventually it wasn't succeeding at all, and they had a migration to another city called Medina, and once he got to Medina, the people liked him there because he kind of brought this new religion that like established a new political system. So they made him not just a prophet, but also like the commander of the army and the governor. And then I don't know if like you could say this kind of went to his head or just because of the time period, he kind of became a warlord. They started taking over other small cities around Medina and eventually take over Mecca, where he was from, and then all of Arabia.
Yeah, and a very like astutely quick and swift
20
manner.
years.
Yeah,
20 years he took over the entire like Arabia is not small. It's like 1/3 of Europe, like half of Europe just gone like
yeah,
20
just
years.
yeah, to a religion that just popped up 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
And Muslims saw that as a miracle from God. So the Muslim expansion, Muslims would say this is God saying that it's true.
well
So in
that
the next 20 years after that, they conquered all North Africa. So it's like taking another Europe with them. So it's like, see, God's with us. And then eventually they failed with the Christians in Europe, but I don't know where God was there, but I'll just say
yeah, I mean,
he
well,
wasn't, yeah.
honestly, dude, it's the same thing with Judaism, and I get myself uh in trouble here, but it's kind of like you hear it from all these Israelis. It's like, well, the reason that we won this war, and the reason we took this land, and we did this and we did this and did this, like we committed all these military feats because we have favor with God because we have the true religion. And it's like, well, what about all of the American Christians that gave you all the military support and the billions of dollars a year, and the evangelicals that donate hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and like, what about
Yeah.
that? Like, so where's
Oh, it's God, guys.
Oh
Trust me.
yeah, but not your God though. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
not the God of all those people. I don't know. It
Mhm.
just kind of rubs me a little bit wrong. Like,
I know what you mean, yeah.
But so yeah, like I was saying, back on topic before I got myself in band land.
I was gonna say you're gonna get canceled really quick.
Yeah, well, man, I kind of plan on it. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm trying to drag it out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Make it a little bit fun. But
Exactly.
but I can cut that portion if you want to.
No, it's all good. I don't care, man. I say way worse stuff.
So
I'm surprised I haven't been banned by now.
yeah, well, hey man, listen. The problem is I'm white. Okay,
That's true. I forget I'm not white, so I say stuff and I never get in trouble. And then like all my white friends say stuff, like everyone's like, "Dude, he's such a racist," and I'm like, I say everything he says every day.
Yeah,
Like,
dude. You did did you do a Bishop Barron video? Is that what it was? You did a
I
video.
don't remember what it was.
You did a video where you were saying Muslims don't worship the Catholic God, I think. Is that it?
Yes,
And
I did.
I did just a 1 minute TikTok on it, like posted on Instagram. Everybody's in my comments like, well, you're not a real Catholic. You don't agree with the Catechism. You don't agree with Vatican II. Like, oh, go be a sedevacantist. I'm like, bro, like, what the heck? And all your comments are like, greatest
good job, man. I believe.
YouTuber on the internet. I'm like, bro.
I forget I'm brown. Like I literally forget my skin. I just start talking and people love it. I'm like, wow, I guess I have good stuff to say. Meanwhile, all my friends are kind of like doxxed.
Well, you do, dude. You do have good stuff to say. It's just that people are able to receive it because they don't think that you're like Hitler or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
They look at me and they're like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like I talk bad about like the state of Israel like pretty decently, and people I've never gotten anyone being like, yeah, we're gonna cancel your Instagram. Like it hasn't happened yet. We'll see what happens, but
Well, I hope it doesn't, man, because you're like the fearless leader for this. Because you know what I mean? Like you're kind of paving the
try my
pathway
best.
here. I'm like walking and you're like in your shadow. You know what I mean? Like I think I
The brown skin's like bulletproof, you know.
Yeah, dude. I super chatted Sips with Sarah and asked him a question when he was talking about the Jay Dyer and the Timothy Gordon debate. I asked him a question and I was like, Ishmael said this. I was like covering my bases because he can argue with me. He could be like, you're just an idiot. He can't argue with Ishmael. You know what I mean? He's the authority on the cause, bro. Like, So I guess my next question would be, when are you going to write a book, man? When are we going to get the book?
I am writing a book.
You are?
It's happening right now. I'm working with a company in Texas actually, and we're working. The book is basically it's a mix of my life story and going through my life story and how each part I see how Christians evangelize and what to do and not to do when you're evangelizing to Muslims. So that's basically the main aspect of it. It's also going to talk a lot about why the two like faith cannot interact with each other, and basically it's actually better if we don't have like a country which is half Christian, half Muslim, because you're kind of asking for trouble. So that's part of the book as well. But the main part of it is just like the do's and don'ts of evangelization and also how I've came to know Christ. So it's kind of like each chapter is like a part of my life, and there's like a half a chapter discussing what I would have done differently if I knew Christ in that moment and how someone could have told me about him.
Yeah, dude. Whenever you do that, I'll have to read the book and then we'll have to do like another interview and I'll have to get your scoop on that.
Yeah, for sure. I have no idea when it's like there's no rush for it at all. Like so we're just starting the proposal now and getting everything ready. And I think maybe this time next year we'll be like done the writing process and then I'm surprised how long it takes to write a book.
Are you just going to
Like it
self-publish or?
no, I'm with a publisher. So I'm with a company in Texas that works with publishers, like a third party, and they
Yeah.
basically they take like my picture and all like the podcasts and followers I have, and be like, we're writing a book about him. You should like fund the book with us, and then they help fund it, and then it kind of goes from there.
Heck yeah, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
you deserve it. You have a very interesting story and you have also like, you know, which I guess if you weren't a very observant person, then you may not have ended up where you're at now. But along the way, you can tell you were making very like astute observations, and you have like intellectual, you know,
hmm
forethought and afterthought to put into the stories, and where like you really pick up on all the details, and you really like notice a lot about your surroundings. A lot of people don't pay attention to life anymore, man. you know?
Well, I was talking to someone. I think of myself as an idiot sometimes. Like I'm still the guy who watches memes at home and then like has a few beers with the boys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nothing changes in my life, but like I was talking to this Orthodox friend of mine, close to where I live, and he said that about me too. And it's not me boosting, but because I just didn't realize. I didn't realize that's what I do. But I told him like, yeah, when I was like Muslim, and my dad would say something, I'd be like, what made my dad think to say that to me, and why did I take it that way? And he's like, Ishmael, you know, like half the people that don't think about that at all. And I
No.
was like, what do you mean? He's like, no one thinks about why your dad thinks the way he thinks or why he believes what he believes. And I'm like, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that most people kind of just don't think about what they're doing. And it kind of caught me off guard because I usually always think about why do I believe what I believe, even as a Catholic. It's like so many times I'll hear like a priest or like a layperson say something, and I'm like, that made no sense. Why do you believe this? A good example, okay, this is so off topic, but a good example was someone said that, oh, I heard that in heaven there's going to be these animals worshiping Mary. And I stopped there and I was like, who told you that? And he's like, a priest. And I was like, okay, and you just believe that? You're just like, there's gonna be lions bowing down to Mary and like giving her like cakes and stuff. And he's like, I don't know, a priest said it. And I was like, just think for 1 second. Just let's just hypothesize here. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think there's gonna
Yeah.
like like maybe it is true, but why did you just like automatically believe it? Because the priest said it. Like, I don't know. That's how my mind thinks, and I think that's what led me to where I'm at. Because if it wasn't that way, then I would still be like a moderate Muslim just living my life.
I don't know how people navigate the world that way because, if you really assess, I think we were looking at something, statistic the other day that was said like the average person sees thousands of ads every day. And
Hmm.
when you start to think about like the movies you watch, the TV shows you watch, the news, like probably 99% of everything every person sees or consumes is propaganda. So
Oh yeah.
if you don't question, like if you just accept everything you hear outright, how do you navigate the world? You're just stuck in a loop of, a web of somebody else's design. Like it
Before you
doesn't
know, you're on your
equate.
deathbed and that's it. Like
Yeah.
it's just a bunch of ads and then you're dead. That's all
Yeah.
you got.
Every once in a while you order something off a TikTok shop.
Yeah,
You got,
exactly.
you know?
Let's live in the dream, guys. Yeah.
Bro, I mean, so yeah, I guess that's a question. Is so I guess we would both say that like Muslims, I guess the institution of Islam does not have the same God as the institution of Catholicism. Is that
No.
accurate statement?
I would say it's accurate. I would say the way I interpret Vatican II, and I'm kind of forced to interpret this way, is that it must be saying that Muslims through ignorance can worship the true God. That's the only way I can like swallow it down and be like, okay, this is valid.
Well, yeah, because
I can't,
there's.
yeah.
You also mentioned stuff on Matt Fradd about there being issues um, with prepubescent marriage in
Hmm.
Islam, right?
Which goes completely against anything preached by our God whatsoever. Like
Yeah,
the Muslim God literally directly tells Muhammad to marry a child. This can't be our God. Like this can't be. I don't know how much more like information people need to be like, wait a minute, like maybe this is not the same individual God we're talking about here. So so these type of things are very worrying when we're saying we're worshiping the same God. Like we have to be careful what we're saying. Because if we're saying that and we mean it, you're saying that the God that told Muhammad to sleep with a child, or the God who is a deceiver, and the Muslim is worshiping that God, is still somehow worshiping the true creator.
yeah. It doesn't.
Which I can't, it doesn't add up to me at all.
Well, and if you watch interviews like Matt Fradd had a great interview with an exorcist. If you watch these types of interviews, you start to understand. Um, humans, I believe we have dominion on Earth. We have dominion over God, everything. God, Adam named everything. That indicated dominion. But we have to subscribe to one of two powers.
Hmm.
Spiritually, we give our authority over to either Satan or God. And so if you're not explicitly worshiping God, there's only one other power. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so like, it seems to me very disingenuous to think maybe there's a whole entire nations of people that are, empowering the demonic on earth with their worship and their prayers. And maybe a few of them are actually really good people that are ignorant and are maybe worshiping the true God. And then we just condone the whole religion. And it's like, well, we're all just, it's all the same.
Also, like 100 years ago, they were kind of like our enemies, but apparently since the 60s we're like close. I don't I don't know, that's a whole different discussion, but
Everything
like
seems to have changed after the 60s.
so I don't know what was in the air in the 60s, but something
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 in the
changed.
water,
Yeah,
fluoride.
they're putting the chemicals in the water.
Bro, I don't know. So here's my problem. Like you've been a Catholic longer than me, so now maybe you have some insight into this, but I guess my understanding of Catholicism going into it was really that, Protestants have sola scriptura. So they have one frame to view theology in the world through. We have three. We have Scripture, Holy Scripture, which cannot be contradicted, does take precedence, but is complemented by and interpreted through the lens of oral tradition and written tradition from the saints, and the magisterium being the third. So, I guess kind of my understanding was that it can't change. Like all of those things are supposed to come together to make a religion essentially immutable. And it can change in the sense that like new technologies are developed, like IVF wasn't a thing. So the church came out and said, we've applied the doctrines that the church has always had to this new thing. And now we're going to say that based on what we've always taught, IVF is wrong. That's great. That's what we have the magisterium for, is to kind of guide us through history, through the lens of the oral tradition and the sacred scripture. But what I don't understand is how I can like do all this research and understand that the church taught for, especially when you talk about Judaism, because it has a longer timeline historically, taught for thousands of years that it was just wrong. And then all of a sudden they're really our big brother religion. And then all of a sudden, well, actually, we're not going to evangelize to them anymore. And then all of a sudden, we all worship the same God, and it's wrong to try to convert a Jew. And it's like, bro, like what? And they're like, well, you're new to Catholicism. You just don't understand it. And like Vatican II, you have to accept Vatican II. And I'm like, so do I?
You want something crazy?
What?
This is crazy. You ever been to like a Good Friday service?
Oh, are you talking about the prayer for the perfidious Jews? Is that what you're talking about?
So before Vatican II, I don't even want to say the prayer. Just read the prayers during the Good Friday service before Vatican II, and read the ones now, and tell me this is the same service.
It's the same church, like, bro,
like I don't know. I believe the Catholic Church is a true church. I 100% believe in all the dogmas of the Catholic Church, but somehow when I sit there and I'm like, the things that happened in this council are not adding up with other things, I'm just automatically called a heretic.
Yeah, me
Like
too.
not even like saying like Vatican II is invalid. I've never said that. I'm just saying maybe we can interpret this in light with the other councils. Maybe we can like something wrong happened. Maybe it was the implications of it. Maybe it was the way it went out on the ground and parishes went around with it. I don't know what it is, but obviously there was a huge change, and we can't just be ignorant and be like nothing changed. We're all in this together. Nothing's happening. Like we're gonna put our head in the sand and like there's people. I couldn't even imagine if you grew up in the 40s and then like you went to mass and then like overnight the entire mass is completely different and all of a sudden like oh the Jews aren't damned and like everything's just like
Well,
completely like 180.
and that's part of the problem. So, I don't know if you know who Bugnini was, Annibale Bugnini.
Yes.
So he was responsible for the liturgical portion of the Reform in Vatican II. But he outright said that we must be intentionally ambiguous so that people will not understand our cause too early on and stop it. And so, and I'm paraphrasing there, but that was the effect of what he said. And so they literally were open about the fact that they wrote some of the documents like Nostra Aetate, like Lumen Gentium. These documents were written to be intentionally vague so that they could read interpretation into them later. And they waited until a whole generation had passed. And I think it's because, like my priest, he's got to be in his 60s. He's a great man. I really respect and adore him. But the problem is, you think about the fact even a priest that's in his 60s never lived in a pre-Vatican II world. So they waited until enough generations had passed that nobody that's in the entire church has lived a significant portion of their life in a pre-Vatican II world now. And so it's colored the lives of every Catholic, you know what I mean, for the past 2 generations. And so I don't really know I don't really know what I'm obligated to agree with. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll tell you one thing that might give you some peace. Nothing dogmatic was stated in Vatican II. That's all I'm going to say. Nothing dogmatically, nothing in the Vatican II. The Vatican II was a pastoral council. It was the only council that was pastoral. It wasn't like every other ecumenical council where something dogmatically was declared. And there was never a dogmatic declaration of anything in Vatican II,
yeah, well,
which gives me some peace of mind to be at least I can. That's why I'm able to interpret like the writings about Islam and Judaism the way I'm interpreting it and still be in full communion because it wasn't dogmatically defined.
well, that's good to know because I was taught in OCIA that everyone will go to heaven as long as they worship well, they said for sure Jews and Muslims will go to heaven even if they reject Jesus. And I was like, well, hold up a minute.
Did they actually say that?
Yeah, in my OCIA class. That's what they said. And they claimed Vatican II.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I don't know what to say to that, but like,
I mean, it's part of the catechesis, I guess, now. But the problem is it's completely different depending on which priest you ask, depending on which bishop you ask. Everybody has a different view of it.
there's no standard now. Yeah.
No. So
It's
then,
like you said, it's ambiguous. It was made ambiguous for a reason.
yeah. So how are we? Well, the whole reason, we laugh at. It's so funny because it's like irritating. Like we laugh at the Protestants because we're like, you have, thousands of denominations and you can't agree with each other on anything. And then we're like, we agree on everything. And it's like, well, who gets into heaven?
Ask one basic question.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, just like
one question
knows.
has had all of YouTube on fire for 2 months.
Yeah, like it is a basic question. This isn't like, I know Iron Inquisitor, he did that debate I watched on Sola Scriptura, and he talks about perspicuity. So like perspicuity being the idea that the Bible is easy to understand. Anybody can pick it up and read it and understand it. And Catholics don't exactly believe that. That's why we have the magisterium. That's why we have oral tradition, because we have scholars and holy men that have, put more into their life, put more into their studies than we have that help us read into it. I agree with that. But not everything in the Bible is perspicuous. Some things are pretty plain. You know what I mean? Like, thou shalt not kill. Like, I don't need somebody
you
to
don't need a
interpret
translator
that
for that
one.
one.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, you have to accept Jesus. That always seemed to be just like one of the most perspicuous parts of the Bible to me. And so I don't know. I guess I kind of viscerally react to it because it's astonishing to me. I still can't understand how people don't think that it's ridiculous outright. You know what I mean?
I think a lot of people live in denial. I think a lot of people realize that, like, or at least I realized this, that I've realized that like half of our church is just compromise. And what I mean by that is like they probably don't even believe what they believe. And I'm talking about from people like the pure laity all the way up to like cardinals. I guarantee you there's people that believe the weirdest things ever and are not in line with Catholic doctrine. And I just came to the conclusion that like I have my life and I have to teach the true faith. Like that's my only duty is I if I'm able to teach even one person true Christian doctrine, then I've done my duty as a Christian. And I just don't want to be those bishops are those teachers on Judgment Day. That's it. I just don't like I'm very happy I'm not going to be the people who made ambiguous statements knowing what we're doing and have directly or indirectly denied our Lord. And like by saying that like Muslims and Jews can get to heaven without Jesus, you are denying Jesus.
Well, in addition,
You're calling him a liar.
the Bible says that um, if you are in a position to teach others and you teach them wrongly, either out of carelessness or out of haphazardness, then you can bring condemnation on yourself. And so,
Yes.
if there are people that end up in hell, and imagine, I'm not saying Ben Shapiro will end up in hell, but imagine he did, and imagine, Bishop Barron is standing in front of God, and he's like, that guy asked you if he needed to accept me, and you said no. You know what I mean? What would you say to that? Like, you would, in your soul, you would sink. You would be like,
Oh yeah,
what
that'd
have
be
I
terrible.
done, And that's
I
not,
think that's one of the worst sins ever.
yeah.
As we're not wishing this on Bishop Barron. Like
No,
obviously
no, no,
this is
no.
not something.
It's an example because it's one of the most visible, examples you can look up. But I'm not trying to single them out or anything.
Of
for that
course
nature,
not. I'm just saying like this is like the worst sin. This is probably denial of the Holy Spirit, denying who like Jesus came in the flesh and died for you, and you're saying that no, it's you don't have to believe in this. Like this is worse than adultery, worse than murder. Like this is a huge deal, and if we're just willy-nilly talking about our faith in this way and not talking about the truth of that he is the only way to the Father, there is no salvation outside of him and his church, and that's it.
He's the one
Then
mediator.
that's it. There's no one
So
else.
how do you get to the Father
There's,
without the mediator? Like,
there's no other way to talk about it. It's like, can you get? It's like if there's one road going to Chicago. Can you get to Chicago by different roads? No, guys. It's not a rocket science puzzle. It's not. It's not like you know what I mean. If
well,
there's one road that goes to the city, you have to take that one road. Like,
and
if
when
there's one way to get to the Father, you have to go through that one way.
and when I was, when I was in OCIA, they used that example, and they said there's multiple ways to get to Indianapolis. So, maybe the fastest way is I-70, but, maybe you want to take the back roads, and maybe it's a longer route, but that's your prerogative. And what they're inferring is that, like, Islam and Judaism, they're just the back roads, and they'll get to the same spot, but through a different route. And, I kind of said, I agree with what Pope Francis said about all religions are paths to God if the presumption is you can find Jesus starting in any religion. So Muslims all over that are true believers are having dreams. It's like it's a news story. You posted it, didn't you? That Muslims everywhere are having dreams of Jesus and they're converting en masse. That's because, people what does the Bible say? Seek and you will find. It says Jesus is the truth. If you seek the truth, you will find him. It's that simple. So if that's the case, if what Pope Francis was saying was, it doesn't matter what religion you start in, you can find your way to Jesus. I full-heartedly agree with that. If what they're saying through the analogy of there's multiple ways to get to Indianapolis, I'm like, yes, starting in Islam and ending in Christianity is taking the back roads. Starting in Islam and ending in Islam is like trying to get to Indianapolis and ending up in Detroit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like not even comparable. I don't know, man.
Jesus, it's like one of the most clear things ever. There's a one God and one mediator. If you don't have the Son, you can't get to the Father. I'm the way and truth and life. No one comes to the Father but through me. Like I don't know how many more times you want the God to say it. Like it's almost like Jesus knew this was gonna happen and people are gonna be like, there's other ways to the Father. And he's like, guys, I'm telling you, there's only one way.
Nobody's been able to explain 1 John 2:22 to me, where it says, "Who is the Antichrist but him who denies the Christ? Truly I tell you, anyone who does not know the Son does not know the Father." Like, what do you make of that? How do you explain that away? How do you reinterpret that? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think you can. I think you have the answer. I think you know who the Antichrist is. There's no way. There's no way. Like it's so clear that it's just like anyone who denies the Son does not have the Father, and he's an Antichrist. So anyone who's not preaching Christianity It's like
Whoa.
wild. Whoa, it's
Yeah,
wild
dude.
extreme.
Yeah.
How do I? Yeah, there's no if, ands, or buts about it. It's so clear,
And that's
and
what,
yeah,
if, like, I was thinking about this, and you tell me what you think about this, but Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he says, Father, if there is any other, I'm laughing saying this is a very solemn thing, but, I know where it's
I
going.
know.
He's like, Father, if there be any other way, please take this chalice from me, but nevertheless, not mine, but your will be done. And God's just up there thinking, well, there is ignorance. You know what I mean? We could just leave
Don't
everybody
worry.
ignorant. Well, yeah, you know what? You don't really need to die on the cross.
Don't worry, son. We're not going to send anyone to China, and through Buddhism, they will get to me.
Yeah, like what? Like, it just kind of invalidates his sacrifice. You know what I mean? It makes the
Yeah,
whole
it
entire
does.
thing.
It was more like an option rather than a must to save us.
Yeah, and Tim
Like,
Staples said, on Catholic Answers, this stuff is just appalling me, man. And I'm not trying to make too many enemies, but I am essentially, But like Tim Staples said that invincible ignorance, he took a caller, and I have the video, but he took a caller and they were asking about Islam, and he was talking about invincible ignorance. And he said we have to be careful because invincible ignorance doesn't just apply to those who never heard the gospel. It also applies to those who heard the gospel, but they didn't comprehend it. If it didn't set right with them, then they're still ignorant. And
well, the gospel doesn't sit right with anyone. That's like the whole what? Sorry, the gospel is not supposed to sit right with you. The
yeah,
first point is like you suck, you a sinner. Like that's not gonna sit
yeah.
right. Anyways, continue. Sorry.
No, that's it. I was just saying, like, when you're in science class in 4th grade and you don't pay attention, and the teacher gives you a test and you fail it, and she's like, "Why didn't you pay attention?" You know what I mean? Like, you think God's gonna be like, like, well, sorry, I was dazed. I didn't have my Ritalin that day. My prescription wasn't
My
filled.
Ritalin.
So, I'm just like, let me into heaven. It's just like so absurd.
I have nothing against these people, but I agree with you that like it actually makes people not want to be Catholic.
Yeah.
These are the things that make people stay Protestant. It's like you're telling me that this church that you say Christ established is saying that these people worship the same God and that even if they hear the gospel, they can still get to heaven. Like, what would someone who's like a Lutheran or a Baptist researching into the early church, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna stay Protestant? Are they gonna go Orthodox? And that's it. Like they're gonna jump over Catholicism because what they hear from us is universalism. That's what they hear.
Yeah.
They're basically saying like it sounds like we don't care basically about evangelization or about the truth. We care more about feelings.
Well, and that's what Bishop Barron said. I mean, he essentially called himself a universalist. The distinction he draws between his beliefs in universalism. Do you know Balthazar?
I might.
Dare we hope
Oh
that
yes,
all be
yeah, I know.
saved?
Yeah.
That's his theology. He subscribes to the Balthazar, dare we hope that all be saved theology. And he says it's not universalism because he doesn't know for sure that hell is empty, but it might be. And I'm like, we know for sure it's not empty. You know what I mean?
Jesus says
Like,
there's going to be gnashing of teeth.
yeah, like,
He didn't say there might be. He said there will be.
yeah. So it is a diluted universalism that they are pushing forward in the church. And my fear is, and this is kind of my apocalyptic conspiratorial side, but I think that eventually when they make the Catholic mainstream into people that subscribe to universalism, then they're going to say, well, you're an extremist because you don't believe in universalism. You're an extremist because you think you have to go through Jesus. That's culturally biased. That's racist because you're just anti, this and that and blah, blah, blah. And so you're exiled. You know what I mean? And
It's
then,
already kind of happening.
yeah,
Like, I'll give you a great example. Two friends of mine were talking about this famous singer who's a Protestant. I forget who he is, but basically, he had an interview and he was talking about his faith in Jesus, and then my friend was like, "Yeah, I hope he becomes Catholic." And the other person, she says, "Well, it doesn't really matter. He has Jesus." And I was like, "Okay." Hypothetically, yes, a Protestant like has a high chance of getting to heaven because they believe in Jesus. But wouldn't it be better for them to have the fullness of truth?
yeah,
Wouldn't it be better for them to be in the full church so they can have all the sacraments like what it, like? But this Catholic was confused. She was like, "Well, I don't want to force Catholicism on them. Like they already have Jesus, so it's enough. And that's like the first seed of universalism. And we see it in like Vatican II. It talks about like Protestants, where it went from Protestants were anathematized to separated brethren, which I'm happy that we're trying to fix the bridges that have happened in history.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's kind of like from a Protestant perspective, like if you're a Protestant, you're looking into it, you're just like 200 years ago, I was a heretic, and now I'm like basically on the same page as you. So why should I join? Like, you guys can't get your stuff together at all. Like, you guys cannot figure out what you believe.
No, and I think there's honestly, dude, I think there are massive attacks against the Catholic Church, both, satanic and political, geopolitical. I think the Catholic Church, you got to think organization is power. So when people can come together for a common cause, nobody as a single man, sitting in his home he has a finite amount of power. But when he's able to join, the more people he can join with under the more concrete leadership that they have, the more powerful that group becomes. That's how we won this country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was through organization. We had a strong organization, institutionalization. You'd be hard pressed to find another non-governmental organization on planet Earth that has 1 billion constituents that answer to one man. And so there's power in the Catholic Church, and that's why we are attacked attacked so heavily. I think that they don't even really need to attack the Protestant Church anymore because it's so heavily divided.
Yeah.
That there's not as much power in organization.
Saying you're Protestant doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
It's just there's like a billion of them. So which one are you, kind of thing?
Yeah. Are you even a real Christian? You could be a Mormon. You could be a Jehovah's Witness.
At this point, like Protestant, the label should be gone and just be like Lutheran, Baptist, Mormon. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the labels become useless a little bit.
Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting. So what I mean, so on the topic of making enemies.
You have any more you want to make?
Yeah. So voice of reason, bro. So what is like, and this is on topic. I'm not just attacking people. This all really flows into what we're talking about.
Man has like a list in the back.
Well, I mean, this is. Oh, bro. I mean, yeah. Like you said, I got to tell the truth, man. Like, I don't really care. Like, if I was doing entertainment, if I was doing comedy, then I would do my set and I decide what people liked hearing and they didn't, and then I change it. But this is this is the truth. You know what I mean? But
no, I know what you mean.
He went on Matt Fradd and said that if people don't, Matt Fradd, did you see the interview with Voice of Reason?
I didn't watch the whole thing. I'm actually relatively close to Voice of Reason. We send memes to each other and stuff. He's a great guy.
Oh,
yeah.
I think so. I mean, from what I don't know him, but from what I know of him. But there's a section where Matt Fradd asks him, if you became Pope, what would be the first thing that you did? And he said, I would excommunicate everyone from the church that disagrees with Vatican II.
I don't remember hearing that at all.
Yeah. I mean, I would.
Did he say Vatican II?
Hmm?
He said Vatican II specifically?
I don't know if he said Vatican II specifically, in fairness. I mean, I watched it. It was basically you have to agree with all the teachings of the church. And the one they mentioned specifically was Taylor Marshall. And he said, well, what would you say about Taylor Marshall? He was like, gone.
Really?
Yeah, he's like, you either reconcile yourself to these documents or you're gone. I mean, let me see if I can.
I don't know what to feel about that. Like, I understand what he's saying. It's good for everyone to recognize any dogmas of the Catholic Church. Like, every Catholic should be on board. But also, Taylor Marshall's brought a lot of people to the faith.
Yeah.
And he's also, while he might have, maybe the way he presents it might not be the best way, and I might not agree with it, it's not like he's presenting issues out of the blue. He's presenting issues that are actually happening. Like, why is the TLM being suppressed? Or why has our faith, at least it seems that it's been changing significantly. And I don't know if silencing him, if that was what he said, I would disagree with Voice of Reason because I don't know if silencing people just because they are not on board with everything yet. Like, there's always hope for people to be on board for everything, and Taylor Marshall has done some great work trying to unite the church. I honestly think he's tried to unite the church, not divide it. I think he's bringing issues by presenting true issues,
Well,
saying this
preserve
is
the
what.
church, you know?
Yeah, he's preserving it and basically saying, like, guys, we have a tradition, and I'm not seeing it anymore in our parishes, and that's what he's presenting. So I don't think he's outright going out saying like, I think the Vatican is corrupt and everything that the Pope says is false. Like I've never heard him say that. If he did, then that's a whole different story.
No, I mean, I read
But
his book. Have you read his book,
I've never read
Infiltration?
his book, so
It's really good.
yeah.
I think it's like 7.5 hours on audiobook or something, but it's worth reading. And so yeah, if I misquoted Voice of Reason there, then I'll apologize retroactively. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I that's what I heard. But it was like an hour and 45 minutes into the interview. But it kind of just took me aback when I heard it. And I wasn't trying to get you to condemn your friend or anything like that, man. I'm just like bringing it into the
No, I have
conversation.
nothing.
You know what I mean?
I have nothing wrong with Voice of Reason. Our Tim Staples, our Bishop Barron. I literally have nothing wrong with them at all. I'm just thinking about like how what they're saying in context. Like, what did Tim Staple mean by if he heard the gospel, you could still have visible ignorance to it? I don't know what that means, and I feel like even if he meant something that's different than what we're interpreting, it's still not like a wise thing to say. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like it's
yeah.
confusing people.
I feel like the importance of so like people always say to me, it's not your job to determine who goes to heaven and hell. It's not your job. And I'm like, I'm not pointing at specific people and saying this person's going to hell, that person's going to hell. But it is our job to have a very succinct idea of what actions will send you to hell. So
Hmm.
serving a God other than our God will send you to hell. You know, committing adultery will send you to hell. If you don't confess these sins, if you live these as lifestyles and you're never reconciled to God, they will send you to hell. And it's important that we have a fear of God and that we revere those things such that we try to live a holy life. I feel like when you get to the point where you're like, well, anybody could go to heaven, and somebody
Hmm.
asks you, well, what about somebody that did this, and they're like, oh well, yeah, it's possible, I don't know. Then it all becomes theoretical. I feel like it turns into relativism, whereas like I feel like Catholicism, the whole point of the institution, the whole point of the tradition is preserving the path to holiness.
Yeah.
So if we're telling everybody that it doesn't really matter that much what you do or who you serve, we're just reducing, like Bishop Barron said, it doesn't reduce to a total relativism, but I feel like that is the end game of that doctrine. You know what I mean?
I don't know what other end game it would be.
Yeah.
Like where else would it lead us? Yeah.
So, I mean, I get demonized. People are like, well, it's so weird. I don't even have any freaking followers, and I have already people hop into my comment section. They're like, I literally got called the Antichrist in all capital letters, bro. I'm
That's
like, what?
wild, bro.
What?
And that's what I'm talking about. Like I don't think like you or Taylor Marshall are doing this because you guys are like evil in the background trying to like, oh, I'm trying to destroy the
The
church.
henchmen.
They're valid. You know what I mean? They're trying to they're valid questions. Like you're like, wait a minute, I'm reading documents from before Vatican II, and they seem different to the documents from Vatican II. Why is that? That's a really good question, and everyone has the right to ask that. I don't see. If anything, it's more suspicious to me if people shut that down very quickly, then be like, "You're right. There is a difference. Let's figure this out."
Well,
But by
yeah.
shutting anything down like that quickly, it's very suspicious.
It really feels like you have to reject, because I don't understand the, for instance, and people out there can research this on their own, but you will find that Justin Martyr, St. John Chrysostom, St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Augustine, they all had very similar things to say about Jews.
Hmm.
And then, then everybody's coming out now and saying like the exact opposite. And
Yeah.
so it's like, well, are you making the case it really seems like they're making the case that the fathers of the church were anti-Semites or racists. And so is that really what you want me to believe?
Yeah.
So I either have to agree with you or I have to agree with the early church. Like, you've wedged me in a spot here. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I don't know how I
And we're
came to
supposed
be
to
in
be
that
the church that
position.
holds tradition. Yeah. We're supposed to be the ones who are like of the church fathers. Like Catholics are people like the ones who kept the tradition of the church fathers. But
Yeah.
it seems like whatever's happening now is in sheer contrast to the church fathers. So we are in a pickle. We have no idea what to do. And asking the questions is not it should never be an issue.
Yeah. That's insane, dude. But I mean,
Yeah.
um, so um, what are your recommendations for Christians that are dealing with Muslims that are attacking their faith?
I kind of follow the like Ignatius of Antioch approach. So basically Ignatius of Antioch, his followers wanted to like free him from prison, but he actually said, "Don't do it. Let me suffer with like the people in prison." And then he eventually was taken to Rome, and through his the lions eating him, like through his execution, his face was preached that way. And what I'm basically getting at is that our actions speak a lot louder to Muslims than what we say. We can say all day long that like we have the true faith and that Jesus is not just a prophet, but also if we start acting in like more Christ-like, and when they insult us, we actually show them love. And so this is something I've actually done before with my family actually when I first became a Christian. When every time my mom would say something insulting about my faith, I would actually buy her something. I would buy her like either dinner or like a small gift. And I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I was like, I'm gonna have to kill this with kindness. You know what I mean? So
Genius.
eventually,
Social
eventually,
genius.
like I know, right? But eventually, it started costing me a lot of money. But because the insults were like at the beginning, it was bad. Now it's like almost none. But at the beginning, like the first year or two, it was like I was getting bankrupt there. But it was all good.
So you just
And
need your book to get published, and you don't have any
yeah,
issues.
exactly. And then I can get all the gifts she wants. She'll be insulting me every day. There you go.
Oh
But
Lord.
no, it's like I think that's like a best way of doing it is like when people insult you, literally show them love.
Yeah.
And they'll be so baffled. They'll be so confused as like I literally called this guy an idiot and now he's asking me out for dinner.
So what do you think the approach is? Um, like, how do you think we proceed with this? Because I guess the problem is I actually, um, I have Muslim friends,
Hmm.
and I pray for them. I think, really good people. And honestly, I don't think a lot of them are very culturally Muslim. I don't think they really understand the intricacies of the faith the way that we're talking about it, or that you're explaining it to me. But it's really difficult because on one hand, you've got this, like, I guess, kind of Protestant sect that's like, we should just mow down the Muslims in the Middle East because they're all our enemies. You know what I mean? And you're like,
Yeah.
pump the brakes. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like that. Like, chill. And on the other
Hmm.
side, you've got the Catholics, and they're like, oh, bro, we should not even evangelize them. They're all going to heaven anyways. And you're like,
There's no
bro,
middle ground.
yeah, like, what am I doing here? So, like, on one hand, I'm trying to, like, pump the brakes. On the other hand, I'm like, no, like, I'm trying to move the machine. Like,
Hmm.
what is the move forward?
I think individually to move forward is to make Muslim friends and just have them be welcomed into your life and showing them like who Jesus is by like just being Jesus to them. Society wise, I actually don't think it's wise to bring. Oh, this is gonna be terrible. I don't think it's wise to bring Muslim immigration into Western societies.
You
I think
saved
that
it
should
for the
end.
end. You saved it for the
Yeah,
end. It's okay.
do not, whatever you do, just stop it. Stop, like you thought, like, yeah, you might not like some cultures, but some cultures are gonna kill you. So we gotta stop it right now. Like, so my idea, actually, what I'd love to see happen is whether it be Catholics or Christians in a general sense, send missionaries to the Muslim world and make their countries more Christian. because our countries are becoming more Muslim now, and what we have to do is stop people coming into the country who don't agree with our values, and then send our values to their country, because sorry guys, our values are better and
Mm-hmm.
they're divine and they help people in society, and we do that through missionary work. And that's the way forward, is we send missionaries to the Muslim world. It really is the only way forward. But at the same time, we have to stop immigration into our countries, which is
Yeah.
what we used to do. We used to do this, by the way. Like in the Middle Ages in Europe, they would send Franciscan missionaries and all these things to the Muslim world. And then there weren't many Muslims in middle-aged France. Like it wasn't happening.
Well,
But
yeah,
like
that's
so like they
essentially
had good borders and they sent missionaries. That's the best way to do it.
how they ended up with such a large Catholic population in Mexico. Was missionaries
Hmm.
came across the ocean, and then everything happened with Our Lady of Guadalupe, and that kind of served as a catalyst, and they built the basilica, and
Hmm.
yeah, I mean it was all going from us to them, not
Yeah.
bringing them to us. I guess is that kind of what you're trying to say?
Yeah, like because right now we're on the defense. We have to be on the offense.
Yeah,
Like we can't always be on the defense 24/7.
yeah, and I mean, why is it that realistically Christianity and even more so Catholicism is the only religion that people have a problem with? Like they're so pro freedom of religion until it comes to our religion. Like we are the only one that's
Hmm.
discriminated against, And I feel like that's where the heart of the whole entire like universalism thing comes from, is people want to be liked by society again. They want people to accept us like they accept all the other religions, and they want us to not they don't like the fact that people see us as religious bigots, you know what I mean? And so they want to be reintegrated into society, but that's not like the Bible says that we are a city on a hill. We're set apart. We're within the world, but not of the world. And
Hmm.
so it just seems kind of antithetical to the Christian position to try to make concessions to society like that.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think the reason why people hate us is very clear. It's because it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
People don't like things that are true. They don't. No one wants to be told like, no, you actually need a savior. You have to get your life together. No, not everything's like hunky dory and every life's amazing and you can keep sinning. Like, no, you have responsibility as a human being to worship God and love your neighbor. You're not. You have to carry your cross and follow Him. And we live in a world where no one wants to be responsible for anything,
Yeah.
even people inside a church and outside of a church.
Yeah, no, it's true. And it seems to be a very much so like you were talking about earlier with your two friends you were talking to about Protestantism. It seems to be a very feminized, hyper empathetic approach. People really like their empathy overtakes their reason.
Hmm.
They want to approve. It's like love has been replaced by approval. If you don't approve of everything
Yes.
somebody does, you don't love them. And it's like it's actually the opposite of that. Like if I love my child, do I have to approve of him putting his hand on a hot stove? You know what I mean? That just
Of
doesn't make
course,
any
yeah.
sense. Like
Well, that's like Jesus. Like Jesus says, if you love me, keep my commands. Like literally, like that's literally what he said. If you love me, keep my command. Do what I'm telling you. If you love me, like that's true. True love is like accepting who someone is, but also telling them, hey, this thing you're doing is hurting you, and you have to do better. So what, like Jesus with the woman who committed adultery, he said, go and sin no more. You're forgiven. So he forgave her, didn't stone her, but people forget that he said, go and sin no more.
mhm.
You have to stop doing what you're doing. And that's what people are missing. People just want to hear Christianity is Jesus without the cross in the Western world. That's what it is. People don't want the cross. They just want to have the hippie Jesus. Where in the Eastern world, especially because of the Orthodox, all the persecution they've been through under communism and Islam, it's the cross without the loving Jesus. Because all they felt was persecution. And you need both of them. You need the loving Jesus, but you also need to carry your cross as well.
Yeah. No, for sure, man. And that being said, I guess like this is kind of the concept um I guess we could end off on. I'll get your thoughts on. But it seems to me that I was talking about how um I was talking about how that there's the three ways of validating Scripture, or 3 ways of viewing truth. It's through Holy Scripture, through oral tradition, written tradition, and magisterium. So, you know, it throughout the Catholic timeline, it really seems like, you know, the path hasn't been like this for the Catholic Church. It's been kind of like this, you know, and there's a trend line where it's never deviated too far from this point. But the reason that it's always course corrected, I feel, is because of people like Saint Athanasius. You know what I mean? Like the mortar on the bricks of the institution of the Catholic Church is the persecution in the blood of the people that said, you know, I refuse to leave and I refuse to accept this. And when people tried to derail it, the Arians, the Nestorians, you know, all of them. And so people act like, I feel like people really act like if you disagree with a teaching, if you disagree with this or that, you are essentially Martin Luther. You're essentially a Protestant. Like, that's what I hear a lot. You know what I mean? Is like, oh, well, if you don't firmly agree with everything Vatican II says and everything every pope has ever said in the history of the church, then you are no better than Martin Luther, and you might as well become an evangelical, you know? And
the issue with that, though, is like you can't even do that. You can't agree with everything every pope has ever said, because half of them contradict each other. You'd be living a living contradiction. Like, you couldn't do it. So like no one can do that, and nothing we've ever said, like, at least I think for the both of us, none of us have ever said we disagree with any dogmas in the Catholic Church. We're only saying, guys, something has changed. Something seems very different, and we need to address this. And that's all we're saying. We're just saying, how does this fit in with the larger Catholic Church and its history? Because we went from this up and down a little bit, but it's still a linear way of moving, to now we're kind of going a little bit this way. And why is that? Why is universalism being more and more accepted? Why is, like, all these different dogmas that were taught in the past and the writings of saints kind of being ignored now? That's all we've been kind of talking about. But somehow just addressing it is enough for you to be Martin Luther.
Yeah, for you to be Martin Luther. So it's like, okay, well, you either have to disagree with Thomas Aquinas or you're Martin Luther. What? Bro, what kind of weird shtick did I end up in here? Like, I don't...
Yeah, exactly. Almost makes you like, why didn't I become Orthodox, bro?
Yeah, bro. Oh, it sucks so bad, because, like, that's essentially what, you know, the Orthodox, they drop in my comment section, and... You know, people clown me with all sorts of stuff, and I laugh at it. Like, the Protestants are always talking about, like, the Bible alone, and it's just funny. And an Orthodox person will drop it and be like, haha, like, you believe Muslims and Jews go to heaven. And I'm like, kind of have a little tear, because they're like, right. You know what I mean? They, like, got it right in the heart. They know, like... Oh, dude!
They bring it up because they know it. They know it's bad. They know it.
Yeah,
they definitely won on that one.
Yeah, it's like, bro, it's just like instant KO. But like, what are you gonna do? You know, just move on.
One thing about the whole, like, before we like end, the whole Muslim and Christians worshiping the same God thing, I always feel like there's a double standard too, where like a lot of Christian, like, apologists, Catholic apologists specifically, would be like, oh, but Jay Dyer, like the guy who was saying like they don't worship the same God, and who's the Orthodox, your own patriarch says that they worship the same God. But that's kind of like an irrelevant argument, because they don't view their hierarchy the same way we view it. Like, Orthodox are not bound by every statement the patriarch says, while Catholics more or less kind of have to follow everything the Pope says. So it was just like, I don't remember who made that argument, but someone made that argument, and I was like, well, see, he's not even following his own patriarch. And I'm like, well, in theory, he doesn't have to. Like, in Orthodoxy, he doesn't have to believe everything the patriarch believes. So I find Catholics use arguments that would go against them more than the Orthodox. I don't know if I'm making any sense with this argument, but I just feel like people are not understanding the other side and understanding the Orthodox position.
Well, yeah,
at
because ultimately that was the crux of the debate. It wasn't about do Muslims worship the true God. It was about which is better, Catholicism or Eastern Orthodoxy. And they also threw a Methodist in there, and he got absolutely obliterated. And so
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, I don't know why he was there. But
that was a very strange addition. And he was a Freemason. I was like, what? But
why not at that point?
yeah, I mean, for why? But the argument was about Catholicism versus Orthodox, and the Orthodox basically see this whole entire rupture within the Catholic Church as indication that there's contradiction. But here's kind of my position, like, you know, in the Old Testament, David, he committed adultery, he slept with Bathsheba, then he killed Uriah, and then God brought a plague upon all of Israel for David's actions because he was king. And David said, why are you plaguing everyone, Lord? It was only my sin. And he said, well, you were their leader, you know. And so I think that, you know, somebody doing something wrong, somebody putting forth a false doctrine, it doesn't invalidate their authority. Like, I don't see in the Bible where it says, you know, if somebody, now you could argue once you get to the case of heresy, you know, invalidating the divinity of Christ, then you could argue there could be a case for, well, that invalidates their authority. But, you know, as far as these like lower level dissensions, it seems like people try to act like, well, there's contradictions in the church. It's like, yeah, so like that invalidates the authority. How? You know what I mean? Like I fail to understand the line of logic there. Was kind of the argument Jay Dyer makes.
And there's contradictions in like every church too. Like there's contradictions up to like the papacy, and it doesn't change the role of the papacy. It doesn't change that the Pope is still infallible on morals and ethics and faith. Like that's not how we interpret papal infallibility. I find that's always like misinterpreted, or sometimes even misrepresented on purpose in arguments with Orthodox. To like, oh, papal infallibility. Like, how could it be infallible when he just like kissed the Quran or Pope Francis hit someone? I'm like, bro, like that's not what we mean by papal infallibility.
Yeah, those
like,
were
I feel like people,
ex-cathedra statements.
yeah, yeah. So Pope John Paul II, he sat down and on a chair of St. Peter, and then he kissed the Quran. Like, no, nothing happened.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a make believe image.
Well, that's true. Yeah. I mean, it is messed up that he kissed the Quran, but it's like, bro, I mean, what are you gonna say? The sacraments are invalid? That's the ultimate.
No, he did something that probably wasn't wise. Okay, cool. Like I don't know, man. He's a guy. Like he did his best. I can't judge him.
Yeah, that's the ultimate issues with, you know, the kind of certain sect of the Sedevacantists is they essentially make the argument that every priest is invalid, every bishop is invalid, none of the sacraments are valid, and it's like, bro, I mean, I can't. How are you going to get on side with the idea that God would leave his church without valid sacraments for 60 years? Like, that just sounds so absurd to me, you know? So confession has been invalid. So people have lived their entire lives and died without. So
I'm in mortal sin right now. Like, if I die, I'm screwed. Like I'm not making it, man.
It just doesn't make any sense. But I mean, like I said, we planned this. What was it, like 90 days ago? We planned this out to do this, and just kept delaying it. Mostly on my part because I needed to get my crap together. But
no, that's all good, man. I delayed it last week too because I was sick, man. It was not good.
In the meantime, all these people are talking about, like, it's almost like it had to be divine, you know, divinely inspired, because we were talking about doing this and there was like no motion on the topic, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, 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 you know, and so I'm really glad that we did it. And dude, you don't know how sane it makes me feel to talk to like an intelligent person that says, you know, you're not crazy, because all I've heard is you're crazy, you're a heretic. You know what I mean? I go home to my Protestant parents and they're like, you're an idolater. And then I go to the Catholic church.
Dude, anywhere you go, you're kind of screwed. You go home, you're worshiping Mary. You go to church, you're worshiping the Muslim. I don't know.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the Orthodox.
You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it feels these days, man. It's just like, I don't even know what to believe anymore, because whatever I say, someone's going to be upset. So it's like, whatever.
Well, I say anything at all. Like, just like, can I just have one person that, like, you know, agrees with something I say once, ever?
Yeah, exactly.
But Yeah, man.
And
It's
I mean, a lot of people do agree with you. Like, I think a lot of people are just not able to say it because of where they are, or because like they honestly just don't want to be kept being called a heretic.
Well, that's something I was going to bring the screenshot and I forgot about it, but I did a survey on my Instagram story and like 200 people replied. 75% said no, they do not worship the Catholic God. That was
Oh, everyone,
75%.
I I did the same thing, and like I think it was like up to like 800 or 1,000 people did it, and same thing, roughly around the same, like 75-80% people were like, no, we do not worship the same God, and the people who voted were mostly Catholics.
Yeah, so are they just not aware of the battle that's going on within the doctrine formulating, or are they?
I think they're either not aware or they are aware, but because it's anonymous, they're able to say their true feelings behind it. Most Catholics are very like they're not saying scared, but like unwilling to say what they truly feel until they realize that the person that they're talking to is also on the same page as them. So
Mhm.
like if I start talking to someone and these things come up, it's almost like they wait for me to say my own thoughts first. And if I say like, yeah, well, obviously Muslims are worshiping the same God, it's almost like a relief to them. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, of course not. And it's like, but why does the document say that? And like then we can have the same discussion. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out there who are very worried about these things, who are devout Catholics and don't know what to do about these issues.
Yeah.
And because we're kind of left in the dark.
I mean, do you think it will reach a point where eventually, like, do you think it's possible for people to be ostracized for it?
I actually think I can't even want to say this. I think by the time it gets to that, there'll be a schism in the Catholic Church.
Dang.
I genuinely think that if things keep going the way it's going, I genuinely feel that the Catholic Church is going to split into the real Catholic Church, that one that's established and the one that's still functioning today, and a Catholic Church that's like basically liberal Anglicanism.
With like a second pope or something, or
I don't know how they would do it, but I feel like I don't know how it's going to happen, but I feel like it's just a matter of time before we either get a very traditional pope that like starts backtracking a lot of stuff and cardinals get upset and something happens, or we get a very liberal pope that does the opposite and then traditional cardinals get upset and they split. I don't see, I can't see it going any other way so far. I pray I'm wrong. This is just what I see happening
yeah,
because we can say we're a united church, but in reality we're very divided right now.
yeah, we are. And I mean, I don't know why. The thing that confuses me beyond all is that the idea behind having the oral tradition, the idea behind having the papal encyclicals, papal bulls, all of the magisterial documents, is that it's supposed to help make things clearer for us. It's supposed to
Hmm.
prevent schism by making things known that are otherwise ambiguous. And instead, it's taking things that were already known and making them ambiguous. So it seems to
Yeah.
be serving the exact opposite purpose to me. So I can't figure out for the life of me why the Pope or a cardinal or a somebody that's the head of some sort of council doesn't come out and say, on interreligious affairs or something like that, come out and say, we understand that this is happening within the church. We just want to clarify this is our position, A, B, C,
Hmm.
D through Z. I don't understand why that hasn't happened because it seems to be a big enough issue that it would justify that type of clarification,
Yeah.
Um,
And they can't be ignorant that it's not an issue because like these people have the internet. They realize like there is a reason why like the whole Muslim Christian one God thing has been on fire for the last 2 months. Like it's all over the place, and it's really because of vagueness in statements. If the document said that we did 100% worship the same God, then there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If it said we do not worship the same God, then these discussions wouldn't be happening. All these discussions would not be happening if we had clear statements.
well,
It's the same thing when
it says it in Vatican II, but you're saying that's not dogmatic, so it's not.
it says it in Vatican II in a pastoral essence.
Yeah.
So, but what does that mean? And
Hmm.
a lot of people are like, "Well, is Vatican II?" But the way this is whole another thing about Vatican II is when you go on to like I don't know if it was the Vatican website or my diocese website, but a lot of Catholic websites just for information, like run by the church, they have all the writings of Vatican II like right there you can read in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like the church didn't exist before Vatican II.
Mm-hmm.
And like everything that we have is from there. And then that was like the council, the end all councils type of thing. And I'm like, why can't I look up the Council of Chalcedon and
The
Florence
Trent.
and Trent? Like, again, why is Trent
Yeah.
not here? Like, like, why do I have to go on Amazon and buy Trent and get it shipped to my house? But Vatican II, I can just click PDF and just scroll on my Mac. Like,
Well,
why is this one way more accessible than the Trent?
why is it that why is it the Council of Trent had a catechism that's called the Catechism of the Council of Trent, and yet the one that was written like hundreds of years later is just called the Catechism of the Catholic Church? Like that was the OG one. It's like that's a
Yeah,
little bit
exactly.
confusing. You know what I mean? Like what?
And if they contradict, then what do we do then? Like, what do we do if the same church gives us one catechism and a few hundred years later gives us another one and they contradict? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do at that point. Like, who do I go with? Like, I don't know if they do or not. I'm not saying they do. I have to honestly read them and research them better to make those statements. But hypothetically, if they did, like, that's a huge issue.
I would say my tendency would be to err with the patristic, because like I guess when I first entered the Catholic Church, I thought that was kind of had a sense of precedence because like they were first. They were
Hmm.
historically they are closer in the timeline to Jesus.
Yes.
So like the idea is the less separated they are in time from Jesus, the more preserved the religion would have been. You know, and that's why things like the Nicene Creed were developed in the very early stages of the church.
Hmm.
And so that's why I struggle to understand the contradictions between saints, Justin Martyr and John Chrysostom and Thomas Aquinas, and then Vatican II. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know, man. Like to some people, I'm a heretic for saying that, but whatever. Like,
But you didn't even say anything. You say you just struggle with it.
yeah,
That's all you said. Like, if that's heresy, then man, I must be
yeah,
in hell right now. I'm not making it, guys.
bro. I mean,
Yeah.
man, maybe I should just become invincibly ignorant and forget this whole entire. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
right.
You
You
know,
should just stay Protestant, man. What are you talking about?
I just get a lobotomy.
Get a lobotomy and then just like live as a monk and then
Yeah.
be a Buddhist monk.
I'll have a
Oh my
monastery
goodness.
of invincible ignorance. You're not
Just you and the boys, just like, yo, I'm not, we're ignorant, bro. We don't know what's going on.
we don't talk about that stuff here. Yeah, we just
Yeah.
we got Coors Light and
Yeah,
man.
Coors Light.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh Lord. Anyways, man, I'm sorry I
Yeah,
kept you so
man.
long. I knew I
No,
said I
you're
wouldn't
all
keep this
good.
long, but it's good talking
Nah,
to
it's
you
all good,
about
man.
it. And I guess if more stuff comes out, maybe we can collaborate again or something. Or if there's something
Yeah, for
I can
sure.
do to help you, maybe I can, if you need some script written or some done, hit me up and I'm game because there are people avoiding me because of this.
Like in your life, or
No, in the Catholic creator space. That
how bad is it? Like,
I
what did you say that was so bad?
maybe this is a post-stream discussion.
Okay,
Yeah,
never
we'll
mind.
say. We'll say. All right, we'll end the stream here, and you guys have a good one. You know, stay real, and if you want to find Ishmael, which I'm sure his following is much bigger than mine, but maybe in the future, you want to give your tag.
Yeah, it's just Ish of Arabia. It's my Instagram, my Twitter, and my YouTube, and I have a PayPal for donations. All the same tag. So.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, and don't follow the scammers in his comments. That there's
Oh,
somebody.
bro, I forgot. The one with the broken English that says
Yeah.
like Ishmael 100. Oh
All
my
right,
goodness.
I'll end the stream here, but thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and have a good day.